In the heart of the dense, misty woods stood Willowbrook Manor, a sprawling mansion that had once been the pride of the aristocratic Wycliffe family. However, for decades, the manor had stood abandoned, its once grand halls now echoing with whispers of the past. It was Friday the 13th when five friends received mysterious invitations to spend the weekend at Willowbrook Manor. Among them were Sarah, a bold and adventurous soul, Jack, her skeptic but ever-curious boyfriend, Emily, Sarah's childhood friend with a keen interest in the supernatural, Michael, the group's resident joker, and finally, Rachel, the quiet and reserved member of the group. Despite the ominous date, the allure of exploring the abandoned manor proved too strong to resist. As they drove deeper into the woods, the towering trees seemed to close in around them, and an eerie sense of foreboding settled over the group. As they approached the manor, Sarah's excitement grew, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling of unease that gripped him. The once majestic building loomed before them, its windows boarded up and its facade crumbling with age. Stepping out of the car, the group made their way to the imposing front doors, which creaked ominously as they swung open of their own accord. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and the dim light filtering through the boarded-up windows cast long shadows across the foyer. Despite their initial trepidation, the friends soon began to explore the manor, each room revealing more secrets and mysteries than the last. From the grand ballroom with its decaying chandeliers to the forgotten library filled with dusty tomes, every corner of Willowbrook Manor seemed to hold a dark and haunting history. As night fell, the group gathered in the drawing room, their nerves on edge as the wind howled outside. Sarah laughed and joked, trying to lighten the mood, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Suddenly, a chill swept through the room, and the candles flickered ominously. Emily gasped as she felt a cold hand brush against her arm, but when she looked, there was nobody there. Michael laughed, dismissing her fears as paranoia, but Rachel remained silent, her eyes wide with fear. As they retreated to their respective rooms for the night, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. As he lay in bed, the sounds of the old house seemed to grow louder, and he could hear whispers echoing through the halls. In the dead of night, Jack was awoken by a strange sound coming from the hallway outside his room. Heart pounding, he crept to the door and peered out into the darkness. To his horror, he saw a ghostly figure drifting down the corridor, its tattered gown trailing behind it. Frozen in fear, Jack watched as the apparition passed through the walls as if they were made of mist. Terrified, he retreated back into his room, but the memory of the ghostly figure haunted him throughout the night. When morning finally came, he tried to convince himself that it had all been a dream, but deep down, he knew that Willowbrook Manor held secrets far darker than he could ever imagine. As the day wore on, the friends tried to put the events of the previous night behind them, but the atmosphere in the manor had changed. No longer filled with laughter and excitement, the air was heavy with an unspoken dread. Sarah tried to rally the group, suggesting they explore the grounds surrounding the manor, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were being drawn deeper into the darkness. Reluctantly, they followed her lead, their footsteps echoing through the overgrown gardens. As they wandered deeper into the woods, they stumbled upon an old graveyard hidden amongst the trees. Moss-covered headstones rose from the earth like silent sentinels, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the trees, sending shivers down their spines. Turning, they saw a figure emerging from the shadows, his face twisted with rage. "You should not have come here," he said, his voice cold and hollow. "Willowbrook Manor is cursed, and all who trespass upon its grounds are doomed to suffer." With a wave of his hand, he disappeared into the darkness, leaving the friends shaken and afraid. As they made their way back to the manor, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, and that something sinister was lurking in the shadows. As night fell once more, the friends gathered in the drawing room, their nerves on edge. Sarah tried to keep up a brave front, but Jack could see the fear lurking in her eyes. Suddenly, the room was filled with a deafening roar, and the walls seemed to shake with the force of an unseen presence. Books flew off the shelves, and furniture toppled over as if tossed by an invisible hand. Terrified, the friends fled into the hallway, only to find themselves trapped as the doors slammed shut behind them. Desperate, they searched for a way out, but the manor seemed to have become a labyrinth of twisting corridors and hidden passageways. As they stumbled through the darkness, they came face to face with the ghostly figure they had seen the night before. His eyes burned with an otherworldly fire, and his voice echoed through the halls like a thunderclap. "You cannot escape the curse of Willowbrook Manor," he said, his voice filled with malice. "You are doomed to wander these halls for all eternity, tormented by the spirits that dwell within." With a cry of despair, Jack lunged forward, his hands outstretched as if to banish the ghostly figure from existence. But as his fingers brushed against the cold, clammy flesh, he felt a surge of power coursing through him. With a mighty effort, he summoned all his strength and banished the ghostly figure back into the darkness from whence it came. As the manor began to crumble around them, the friends fled into the night, their hearts pounding with fear and adrenaline. As they emerged from the woods, they saw Willowbrook Manor collapse in on itself, its crumbling walls reduced to rubble. With a sense of relief, they realized that they had escaped the curse that had haunted the manor for so long. But as they drove away, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of the darkness that lurked within Willowbrook Manor. And as the mist closed in around them, he knew that they would carry the memories of their ordeal with them for the rest of their lives. For Willowbrook Manor was a place of unspeakable horror, a place where the veil between the living and the dead was thin, and where the spirits of the past still lingered, waiting to claim their next victim. And though they had escaped with their lives, Jack knew that the horrors they had witnessed would